Hey there, guys. I haven't had a lot of time the last few days because of holiday stuff, but a question I've been asked quite a few times is what are some good options to buy in the new Xenostone shop? So in this video, I'll just be really quickly going over some of the Xenostone options for the new Materia shop. So in my news video, I thought I had like 25,000 Xenostone. Turns out I only had like 18,000. I already spent 2,000 on two of the materia, but in this video, we're going to be going over all of the stuff. So with the exception of the two new materia, they're all just reruns. So if you have, for example, been keeping up with all the Clash of Wills shop, always buying both materia per month, you should have two of every single copy of all of these except for the new ones. So right away, I will say both of these new materials are very, very good. And this is the first time you can get them. So before anything, I'm going to go ahead and just buy out the shop for both of the new materials and get two copies of each. Now, arguably, you may not need two copies of the preservation materia. This is mostly going to be for your tank. It's good to have two if you can afford it. I did just now buy the second copy. But honestly, that's the kind of materia you really want one copy for your tank. The second copy is mostly for convenience, maybe to stick onto one of your squishy DPS on a fight, something like that. But I wouldn't say it's critical. So for that one, yeah, you really want one copy. Second one is, whatever. For this materia, I would say definitely get both of them. It's 4 killers at 75%. That's a 300% total killer. Doesn't quite work out that way because there's no quad race bosses. Well, usually not. There was 1 or 2 in the past. But for the most part, it's going to be overall usually a 150 killer, sometimes a 225 killer, and that's really good. So I would recommend 2 of them as well. And again, this is the first time being offered, so you really want 2. Now, the other thing to consider is how much do you want to spend? That's the thing. So you don't have to, of course, but I personally like being able to buy the brand new materia or gear or whatever on day 1 of a new season. This is the final season. Next month we should get a new season with either an upgrade to old gear or a new piece of gear. And that can be pretty intensive on your Xenostone. So I think for me personally, I'm going to save about 10,000 Xenostone going into the next season. That might be more than I need to save. It might be a better idea to spend some and this earn back more later. But that's how I'm going to do it. So you have to decide for yourself what's the good amount of Xenostone to save. And if you're behind on Clash of Wills equipment, period, like you still haven't crafted the helm, you still haven't crafted, the chainmail, etc., then I would focus on that, because overall, the Clash of Wills gear is better, but it is kind of a concern because this shop does close on January 10th, whereas Clash of Wills gear is permanent. So you could delay crafting your Clash of Wills gear in order to buy more of the limited time materials. Again, that's the kind of thing you really have to make a judgment call for yourself. But let's go over the materia just real quick. I'm not going to spend too much time per materia. I'll just give you a brief opinion. So Reclaim Serenity is very, very good. Don't get me wrong. It's extremely good. I really would recommend everyone get a minimum of 1 of these to put on your tank for your gear and for resistances. Do you really need like 3 or 4 copies of this? Probably not, because for the most part, this goes on your tank, and you might stick it on a DPS unit or a healer or something as to meet a resist requirement, but mostly this goes on the tank. I think 1 or 2 copies is all you really need. Way of the Samurai is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I mean, for the cost, obviously, it's a fine materia, but not really. Even just as a free materia, it's not that good, honestly speaking. I never ever use this. Big skip. Even if you own 0 copies, don't worry about Way of the Samurai. Dragonfly Destroyer it's a combo that you don't find anywhere else. I don't think anything else in the game has Insect Dragon together. But it is only 50 to both, and it's only two. So this one, again, I wouldn't say is that critical. Low priority. It's worth having, but if you missed it the first time, is it worth 1,000 Xenostone? Probably not. But of course, every now and then, you're going to run into a dragon insect. You'd be like, I wish I had that. But it's a very, very unusual combination that you almost never see. Prideful Incarnate. Really, it's going to be the same review for pretty much all the resist materia. They're good. They're mostly for your tank. Every now and then you'll put them on your DPS units. Again, if you have to meet a resist requirement, for example, let's say you're fighting a boss and you have to have 200 water resist on the entire party. Well, this is obviously a really good source for it. It also has, 80 magic, pretty high. Not quite as important anymore now that we have Deleta's upgraded STMR. But even so, I would say 1 copy is fine for this. Same for all the materials. 1 copy is fine. More is a luxury. I wouldn't spend extra Xenostone on extras. Seaweed Slayer. Same exact review as the dragon thing. So aquatic plant, 70 attack and magic, but it's only 50 to two different races. It's a weird combination. You're rarely going to see that combination. I mean, every now and then it'll pop up, but it's very rare. So I would say if you've already got the 2 copies, don't worry about buying more. If you don't have any, is it worth 1 copy? Probably worth 1,000, but again, not a big priority. Cold Current, yet again, resist materia. This one is only 2 resistances. It does have some MP per turn, but who cares? This one's even worse than the other resist. Like Reclaimed Serenity, Prideful Incarnate. These are 240 resist entirely. This one is only 160, so it's obviously a lot worse than the others. Very low priority. Don't really worry about it. Now, as far as the equip materials, these are pretty good, honestly. Light armor mastery, I would say, is not that big a deal because the only light armor pretty much in the entire game that is worth using would be the Clash of Wills piece of gear. So 1 single copy is all you really need. Obviously, as always, more is better. I would not spend Xenostone on more. And even if you own 0 copies, there is a source of equipped light armor from the tower, the Garuda Tower. So obviously that one doesn't have all the bonus stats, but it's still an option, a freely available option for anyone to get equipped light armor. Helm Mastery. This one I would say is a little bit more of a big deal because helms are all the best attack power helms in the game are helms, not hats. The best hat is 80 attack power. The best helm is 105, and then the Clash of Wills helm is 150. So helms pretty much want to go on, assuming you can, reasonably equip it, on every single physical damage dealer in the entire game. They want to use helms. And about half of them can't wear helms naturally. So this is probably the most valuable of the equip materials because helms always want to go on a physical damage dealer, even if they can't wear it naturally. So this one, is it worth buying beyond the only 2? Probably not, because once again, there is a source of regular helm mastery from, I think that one's from Chamber of Arms. It doesn't have passive stats on it, but it does allow you to equip helms. So if you have both of these from the previous runs, and you have the Chamber of Arms version, you've already got 3 sources of equipped helms. You're not going to need more than that in a party. So, but I would say absolutely get one of these if you missed it the first time. That is probably worth 1,000 of your Xenostone for 1 copy. Priestess Vengeance and Priest Vengeance. Again, resist materia, 240 across the board, or 240 total, I should say. And it does give you this morale counter. The morale counter is very, very small. 100 morale is like a drop in a bucket. It's nothing. And this can actually be a negative in some scenarios. I saw it from people in the last Dark Visions. They were equipping one of these materials on like their Vern, and Vern was countering with morale fill. They didn't realize that was consuming their magical focus. Yes, this will ruin your magical focus if you counter with a morale gain. So good materials, good resistances. Just be very careful about that counter because that can certainly come back to bite you if you put it on a mage. But again, it's a resist material. It's good. It's 240 in total. It's strong. I'm not sure if it's worth multiple copies. Wing clipping, here we go. So this is 50 to 4 different races. Not quite as good as like a dual. I would honestly say a dual 75 is better than this, just because it's going to be so rare that you actually fight a triple match to this, like a Beast Bird Dragon. Of course, Clash of Wills, we're going to run into them every now and then, but still, I would value a double 75 materia more than a quadruple 50 materia. Just because one of these will always do nothing. Best case scenario, it's the same thing as a double 75 match, and most of the time, it's only going to be a double match. Like maybe a 50 to 2 at best. So, as good as it is, I wouldn't say it's high priority. Perfect Provocation is absolutely amazing. You, first priority, probably want 1 copy of this materia. Now, if you already have 1 copy or 2 copies from the previous run, you don't need a 3rd copy. Definitely do not need a 3rd or a 4th copy. But the first copy, I would say, is probably one of the highest value things on the entire list, because being able to very efficiently give a unit passive provoke is so good in so many strategies. People might argue with me saying, you know, the big killer materials are more valuable than this. I personally value things like this higher. It's a personal preference. You know, I really like, you know, tank items, bulk items, etc., utility items over like DPS items, even though DPS items are very important too in this game. But still, I highly recommend Perfect Provocation. Get a minimum of 1 copy. After 1 copy, there are rare scenarios where you might want a double copy for, like, you know, your first tank is dying intentionally during a turn, and then the second tank can take over provoking during that same turn. Stuff like that. But those are rare scenarios. 1 copy should, for the most part, be fine. Heavy Armor Mastery is not that big a deal, honestly. There's really no good heavy armors for damage dealers. Just about every single tank in the game can already wear heavy armor. There's a few exceptions, but just about every tank can wear heavy armor. So really, this is going to rarely see use. Most of the time, it'll be just like a 50 all-stat materia. You're going to put it on your tank who's already wearing heavy armor anyway, just as a stat materia. And it is a good stat materia. It's 50 to all stats. That's really good. So yeah, it's good. Even not counting the heavy armor equip, it's still really good. So I would say 1 copy is all you really need for your tank, or in the very rare scenarios your tank can't wear heavy armor, being able to give it to them is good. But you don't need 3 or 4 copies. Supernatural Subversion. So here we go again with the quad 50. This one actually has stats on it as well, which makes it slightly better than wing clipping. But again, same thing I said about wing clipping. You don't really need... I'm sorry, you'd usually rather a double 75 over a quad 50, just because, you know, most of the time, this is going to, at best, be 100% killer. Rarely will you ever get 150 value out of this. But sometimes you will, and it'll be good. Mystic Acuity, exact same thing. Quad 50, I'm repeating myself at this point, you've already heard the thoughts. Mystic Tenacity, same thing as the Cyclopedia Preservation. You absolutely want 1 copy for your tank. More copies can be useful, but just 1 copy. This one is not quite as good as we'll see right here. It's only 25 racial mitigations. The one down here is 50. I don't know why the previous one is a lot weaker, but whatever, it's fine. So there you go. So quick recap. What are ones that are worth multiple copies? I guess probably, considering now that I look at it, this is the only 75 in the entire list. So I guess the rest are all 50s. So I'm going to go ahead and buy 3 extra items. I'm going to stay above 10k. So what am I personally going to buy? I think I'll buy 1 more Mystic Acuity because it is a multi-killer. I think I'll buy 1 more Supernatural Subversion. And what was the other? Wing Clipping? I think I'll buy 1 more Wing Clipping. Yeah. So that's going to be what I personally buy in the shop. The rest of the stuff, I'm fine with just 1 copy or 2 copies of stuff from the rest. You know, I don't want to spend all my Xenostone and go into the next season not being able to buy anything. So yeah, as far as resist stuff, you know, every now and then I do like really wish, like I wish I had another copy of Reclaim Serenity, and here's my chance. But so far I've survived without it with only 2 copies. I'll continue to survive with only 2 copies. And these killer materias, frequently they're useful for weird combinations and all that. But okay, that was my recommendations on the Clash of Wills Xenostone Shard Equipable Ability Pop-Up Exchange. That's a long title. That's a really long title. But okay, there it is. Hopefully I'll have some more videos for you after Christmas. I've been just really busy doing holiday preparation, cooking, all that kind of fun stuff. So see you after Christmas for maybe some more Clash of Wills stuff. See you then.